Good. Now, look at now. This is my container. Okay. Once you design the application, guys, once you design the application, you deployed your application here. What is the application name I given? First, Servlet app. So what will happen? What object will be created? First step. See, this is my application name. Then what is the URL you are using, sir? Welcome. HTTP : hypertext transfer protocol local host. What it mean by local host? Host indicating IP address or host indicating IP address or where exactly your application is running. Localhost 8080. Default port number is 8080. Next, application name here. So observe that here, please. Right. See, application name, right? Your web application name. Then URL like this. Is it clear, everyone? So once a client gives a request, the request comes to where? First step in web.xml. Oh, one request comes to where? In web.xml. First step, it comes to web.xml. No doubt about it, sir. Then in web.xml, we configured a servlet. Then it checks that URL is matching or not. Once URL is matching, it mapped to the servlet, right? Then when a client gives a request to this application, immediately one third application will be created. One servlet object will be created. Yes, third object will be created. Good. So once the third object creation is completed, immediately one more object, config object. What is the object, sir? One more object will be create, config object. Is it clear, everyone, please? Yes. Right. Third object, config. When a client gives a request, the request comes to web.xml. Once a client gives a request, the request comes to web.xml. In web.xml configuration details. Okay. Now, are you clear at this point? Yes, Shiva. What about next step? Third object will be created. So once the third object creation is completed, then immediately config object will be created. The config object, what exactly is containing config object? Config object contains a config object having a capability to read the configuration details. Configuration details. Details like installation parameters, like installation parameters, installation parameters, and servlet name. Installation parameters and context object. Yes. So using a config object can get the installation parameters and context object. So using config object, yes, the same answer can try to provide interview, sir. Get installation parameters and context object. That's it. So config object, using the config object, we can perform this operation. So can we see practically? Yes, మనం అన్ని చూస్తాం practical గా మీకు అన్ని clear explain చేస్తున్నా ఏం జరుగుతుంది internal గా. So we can see all this, we can use all these things practically, sir. Next, once a config object is completed, then immediately it's sent to init method. Now init method executes, sir. This is what exactly is happening. Are you clear, everyone? Yes or no? Fine. Public void init method. Public void init method. Public void init. Public void init method. So config public void init method right? Then config object is passed to this here. Sir, one more point you should understand. Sir, config is the interface. Who will provide implementation class? Implementation class is provided by the container and is server provided just only. The people will be provided implementation class and object will be created by the container. We are not required to worry about it. Next. So after executing init method, immediately two more objects, guys. Request object, response object. Are you clear, everyone? Request object and response object. Request object, what exactly do? Encapsulate encapsulate the request coming from a client and process the request. Encapsulate the request coming from a client and process the request. అంటే అర్థం ఏంటంటే I can say simply take the takes the request coming from a client and it will be sent the information using what are the information is coming. That information will send to database software. We'll talk about later. Request object takes the request coming from the client and process the request. That work will be do. This is the request object. Okay. Response object. What is the response object? Response object gives the response back to, gives the response. Response object gives the response back to a client, gives the response back to a client. So encapsulate the request coming from a client and process the request. Response object gives the response back to a client. Response gives the response back to a client. Are you clear? So like this. Perfect, Shiva. This method execute once request comes. This method executes once a request comes. Once request comes. Right. Now, mind ఇప్పుడు ఏదో ఒకసారి రాస్తున్నాం మా స్టేట్మెంట్. Servlet request and servlet response is the interface. The request and servlet response is the interface. Who will provide implementation class? The implementation class is provided by whom, guys? Please. The implementation control కదమ్మా container. Container అంటే అర్థం ఏంటి? Containing the objects.
వెబ్ యాప్ అంటే వెబ్ యాప్ సార్.
వెబ్ కదమ్మా కంటైనర్ అంటే సర్వర్.
అదే టామ్ క్యాట్ అయితే
టామ్ క్యాట్ దాన్ని సర్వర్ అంటారు. క్లియర్? Great. Super, Shiva. What about next step? Yes, I'm coming to that. Can you guess it? What this time method? ఇంకంతేనండి. ఈ అర్థమైందా మన లైఫ్ సైకిల్ ఎలా వర్క్ అవుతుందో, ఎలా ఆబ్జెక్ట్స్ క్రియేట్ అవుతాయో? ఎవ్రీవన్? Void destroy method. Destroy method execute what way? Destroy method execute destroying the objects created by the container. Once reload the application, restart the application, or stop the server. All these scenarios, yes, then all these objects, whatever is created by the container, it will be destroyed. The new object will be created. Are you sorry, it will be destroyed. That's it. Then only destroy execute. Destroy execute. Destroy. Destroy method executes. Destroy method executes. Execute once reload the application. Reload the application. Are you understand? Restart and restart the application. Reload the application and restart the reload the application and restart the application. And what about next one? Once reload the application and restart the application and stop the server, please. Destroy method executing once reload the application, restart and reload the application, and reload the application and restart the application like destroy method execute once reload the application and restart the application, reload the application and restart the application. That's it. Destroy method executes one reload the application and restart the application. Uh, or stop the server or stop the server, destroying all the objects created by the container. I can say server and container anta ade andi. Is it clear everyone? Please. Yes. Then later we'll try to see how to store the data in the database. మనకి జరిగిస్తే తెలుసు వాటిని దీన్ని ఎలా రాయాలి చూపిస్తే done. You can write thousands of applications tomorrow.